Did pain change you? Most people say yes, without realizing what that really means. Pain doesn't just pass through you, it stays. It rewrites how you think, how you trust, and who you allow yourself to be. You don't notice it at first. There's no sound when it happens, no warning. One day you're just different. You stop expecting people to show up. You stop explaining yourself. You stop believing effort will be met halfway, not because you're wiser, because disappointment taught you efficiency. Pain doesn't make you loud. It makes you careful. Careful with words. Careful with hope. Careful with attachment. You call that growth. I call it survival, learning how to wear your face. You didn't lose your emotions. You locked them behind rules. Rules like, don't get too close. Don't rely on anyone. Don't show how much it matters. Those rules kept you alive, but they also kept you small. Look at your life now. You don't fall apart anymore, but you don't feel deeply either. You don't chase what you want. You settle for what won't hurt. You don't dream freely. You calculate risk. That's not strength. That's a nervous system that never stood down from war. Pain didn't just change your past. It decided your default settings. How much love you allow. How much joy you trust. How much of yourself you're willing to show. And here's the part people avoid. Pain doesn't ask to become your identity. You let it, because it explained everything. Why you're distant. Why you're guarded. Why you're always prepared for the worst. Pain became the reason you stopped becoming. You say, this is just how I am now. No, this is who you had to be to survive. And survival versions of people don't know when to step aside. They stay in control. They stay alert. They stay armored, long after the danger is gone. That's why peace feels uncomfortable. That's why happiness feels temporary. That's why rest feels undeserved. You're not broken. You're conditioned. Conditioned to endure instead of live. Conditioned to tolerate instead of choose. Conditioned to protect the damage as if it's proof of strength. So when I ask you, did pain change you? I'm not asking about the past. I'm asking whether you're still letting it decide who you are today. Because once you see what pain really did to you, you can't unsee it. And that's where this gets uncomfortable. You know what pain does after it settles in? It convinces you that this version of you is permanent. That the cautious way you move through life is maturity. That the distance you keep is self-respect. That the numbness is control. But listen to me carefully. Those are not traits. Those are adaptations. You adapted to disappointment. You adapted to being let down. You adapted to being the one who had to carry it alone. And adaptation is useful in danger, but dangerous when the danger is gone. Because pain-trained people don't ask, is this good for me? They ask, can I survive this? So you stay in situations that drain you. You tolerate relationships that give nothing back. You accept a life that feels smaller than your potential, not because you want less, but because less feels familiar. Pain teaches you to confuse familiarity with safety. That's why chaos feels normal to you. That's why peace makes you restless. That's why when things are finally calm, you start waiting for the damage. You call it intuition. It's not intuition. It's memory. Your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. Every time you were ignored. Every time you were blamed for reacting to disrespect. Every time you were told to be strong instead of being helped. So now you don't ask for help. You don't lean. You don't soften. You endure. And endurance becomes your personality. But here's the truth nobody likes hearing. Endurance without direction is just slow self-erasure. You don't fall apart anymore. But you also don't expand. You're stable, predictable, controlled, and deeply unfulfilled. Pain-trained people become very good at functioning and very bad at living. You wake up, you perform, you handle things, you stay composed. But inside, there's a quiet resentment building, not towards others, towards yourself. Because some part of you knows this isn't who you were supposed to become. You were supposed to be curious, open, alive. Instead, you're efficient. Efficient at avoiding disappointment. Efficient at not needing anyone. Efficient at keeping expectations low. That's not wisdom. That's fear with good posture. And the most dangerous part, pain gives you a convincing story. It tells you this hardness is strength. This distance is self-respect. This isolation is independence. So you protect the very thing that's limiting you. You defend it. Anyone who questions your walls feels like a threat. Anyone who asks for more of you feels demanding. Anyone who sees through you makes you uncomfortable. Because if you admit that pain shaped you too much, you'd have to face the question you've been avoiding. Who would I be without this armor? And that scares people more than staying wounded. Because wounds are known territory. Healing means unfamiliar ground. No scripts, no guarantees. Pain may have damaged you, but it also gave you something dangerous. An identity built around survival. And survival identities don't let go easily. They whisper, don't change. You made it this far, but listen to me, and listen slowly. You didn't survive all that, just to live the rest of your life half awake. Pain was a chapter, not the author. And if you keep letting it decide how you think, love, and choose, then it didn't just change you, it claimed you. Let me say something most people are too polite to tell you. Pain didn't just hurt you, it trained you. It trained you to expect less, to speak less, to want less. And the worst part? You call that growth. You tell yourself, I'm not the same anymore, like it's a badge of honor. But look at what actually changed. You didn't become wiser. You became closed. You didn't become stronger. You became guarded. You didn't become calmer. You became emotionally distant. That's not evolution. That's compression. Pain compresses people. It squeezes the life out of them until only what's necessary remains. Joy becomes optional. Curiosity becomes risky. Trust becomes naive. So you shrink your emotional world until it fits inside what you can control. You don't chase anymore. You manage. You don't dream. You calculate. You don't hope. You prepare for disappointment. And you tell yourself, that's maturity. No, that's fear that learned how to speak intelligently. You know why you feel older than your age. Because pain ages you. It robs you of lightness. Children explore. Wounded adults evaluate. You walk into rooms scanning for exits. You read people for threats, not connection. You listen with suspicion instead of openness. Not because you're wise, but because at some point, being open cost you too much. So you closed the door, locked it, and then convinced yourself you never wanted what was outside anyway. That's the lie pain teaches. It says, you didn't lose anything, you just outgrew it. But that's not true. You lost range of emotion, range of expression. range of possibility. You stopped feeling deeply, both pain and joy, because numbness felt safer than vulnerability. So now your life is quieter, not peaceful, quieter, less conflict, less disappointment, less excitement, a life turned down to a survivable volume. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Nobody forced you to stay here. Pain shaped you, yeah, but you kept the shape because it protected you, because it explained you, because it gave you an identity you could hide behind. The guarded one, the independent one, the emotionally strong one. But let me strip that down. You're not strong. You're armored. And armor is heavy. It slows you down. It limits your movement. It makes intimacy impossible. That's why closeness exhausts you. That's why emotional conversations irritate you. That's why you pull away when someone gets too close. It's not that you don't care. It's that caring reminds you of who you were, before pain taught you how dangerous that was. So you avoid situations that might reopen you. You stay busy. You stay distracted. You stay productive. But you don't stay honest. Because honesty would force you to admit you're not living from choice anymore. You're living from avoidance. Avoiding being hurt again. Avoiding being seen too clearly. Avoiding being dependent on anything or anyone. So you choose self-reliance over connection. Control over intimacy. Predictability over meaning. And slowly, quietly, your life becomes efficient and empty. Here's the harshest part. Pain doesn't ruin most people. They ruin themselves trying not to feel it again. They build lives that are painful and wonder why they feel nothing inside them. They build walls so high, even opportunity can't get in. And then they say, I'm just realistic now. No, you're traumatized and disciplined by it. You don't chase what you want, because wanting feels dangerous. You don't ask for more, because needing feels weak. You don't commit fully, because loss taught you how much it costs. So you live half in, half invested, half alive. And here's the thing nobody prepares you for. Pain doesn't care if you stay loyal to it. It doesn't reward you for being cautious. It already did its damage. The only question left is whether you'll let it define the rest of your life. Because if you don't confront it, it will choose your relationships. It will choose your ambitions. It will choose your boundaries. It will choose your loneliness. And one day you'll look around and realize you didn't lose yourself all at once. You slowly edited yourself down until nothing risky was left. That's not healing. That's surrender. And if this hurts to hear, good. Because numb people don't feel exposed. They feel nothing. You know what pain really does. It narrows your future. Not because opportunities disappear, but because you stop believing you're allowed to want more. At some point, you learned a rule you never consciously agreed to. Don't reach too far. Don't feel too deeply. Don't expect too much. And you've been obeying that rule ever since. Pain didn't just wound you. It retrained your standards. You lowered them quietly. Not out of laziness, out of self-protection. You stopped asking for what you deserved and started settling for what didn't hurt. That's why your life feels stable, but wrong. You wake up, do what you're supposed to do, meet expectations, meet responsibilities, and still feel like something is missing. Because what's missing is you before the damage. But here's the part people don't like to admit. You don't miss your old self. You're afraid of them. That version of you was open. hopeful, unarmored. And openness feels reckless now. So you say things like, I'm more mature. I see the world clearly now. I don't fall for illusions anymore. No, you don't fall for possibility anymore. Pain convinced you that hope was foolish, because it once betrayed you. So now you choose certainty over meaning. A predictable life, predictable outcomes, predictable disappointments. Because disappointment you expect doesn't hurt as much. Let me tell you something. Age teaches you. Avoiding pain is not wisdom. It's just fear with good posture. You didn't grow thicker skin. You grew calluses. And calluses block feeling. That's why happiness doesn't hit you the way it used to. Why success feels muted. Why even good news doesn't move you much. You trained yourself not to react, not to hope, not to celebrate too early. So when something good finally happens, you're already bracing for it to disappear. That's not realism. That's trauma negotiating terms with your future. And here's the quiet tragedy. Pain made you excellent at surviving, but terrible at receiving. You don't receive love well. You don't receive help well. You don't receive praise well. Compliments make you uncomfortable. Support makes you suspicious. Care makes you uneasy. Because somewhere along the way, dependence became associated with danger. So you keep everyone at a safe distance, close enough to not feel lonely, far enough to not feel exposed. You mastered the art of emotional moderation. Nothing too high, nothing too low. A life engineered to never break again. But life isn't meant to be unbreakable. It's meant to be alive. And life only feels alive where there's risk. Pain didn't just teach you caution. It taught you control addiction. You want to control outcomes, control emotions, control people's access to you. Because control feels like safety. But control kills spontaneity. Control kills intimacy. Control kills joy. You can't control your way into fulfillment. That's why you're tired. Not physically, existentially. Tired of holding yourself together. Tired of monitoring every reaction. Tired of carrying the weight of being the strong one. Strength, when it's forced, becomes a prison. You became reliable, stable, unshakable, and invisible. People don't check on the strong ones. They assume you're fine. And you encourage that assumption, because being needed feels safer than being known. But tell me something. When was the last time you felt deeply understood, not admired, not respected? Understood. Exactly. Pain didn't isolate you overnight. It slowly convinced you that nobody would truly get you anyway. So you stopped trying to explain yourself. You simplified your inner world for others. You edited your truth to stay palatable. And over time, you forgot how to speak honestly, even to yourself. That's why silence feels heavy now. Because when there's no noise, you hear the parts of you abandon. Pain doesn't destroy people directly. It persuades them to abandon themselves, piece by piece, emotion by emotion, until the version left is functional, composed, and hollow. And here's the most brutal realization. No one is coming to give you permission to reclaim yourself. No apology will undo what happened. No closure will magically appear. No moment will feel safe enough. If you wait to feel ready, you'll wait forever. Pain already took what it was going to take. Everything after that, that was your decision. The decision to stay closed. The decision to stay guarded. the decision to keep living small enough to not be hurt again. And I say this as someone who's lived long enough to see it. The greatest regret isn't pain. It's realizing, too late, that you let pain make all your choices for you. You survive, yes. But survival was never the finish line. It was only supposed to get you far enough to live again. And if that sentence unsettles you, good. Because comfort doesn't wake people up. Truth does. Look at yourself, really look. Not the version the world sees. Not the version you show to survive. The one that lives behind the walls, behind the armor, behind the careful smiles. That's not who you were meant to be. Pain didn't just change your life. It changed you. Not slowly, not gently. It rewired your habits, your thoughts, your expectations. Every inch of who you allow yourself to be. And for years, you convinced yourself it was for your own good. It keeps me safe. It makes me stronger. It's just reality. No, that's denial. That's a lie pain sold you to survive. Now hear me clearly. Safety isn't life. Endurance isn't living. Stability without risk isn't strength. It's a slow death of the soul. And you've been living it quietly, methodically. Every choice you make now, every compromise, every step back, every muted emotion. It's because you fear the pain you've already experienced. But here's the hardest truth most people never face. Pain only has power if you let it define you. If you keep hiding behind it. If you keep explaining your choices as practical, mature, wiser. You're just excusing the prison you built for yourself. Think back. All those moments you silenced your feeling. All those times you pretended to be okay while something inside screamed. All those relationships you didn't fully invest in because it could hurt too much. All those dreams you abandoned before even trying because life isn't fair. That wasn't wisdom. That wasn't maturity. That was pain shaping you, and you let it. Now you're at the point where you can see it clearly. And that clarity is uncomfortable. It should be. Because for the first time you realize everything you've been calling strength was actually compromise. Everything you've been calling protection was actually limitation. You weren't surviving. You were shrinking. You weren't building resilience. You were building walls. Walls around your heart, your joy, your potential. And the terrifying part, you don't even notice it anymore. You've gotten so used to this version of yourself that it feels normal, even comfortable. But comfort is a lie when it's built on fear, when it's built on avoidance, when it's built on the memory of wounds rather than the courage to live fully. So ask yourself, when was the last time you did something purely because you wanted to, not because it was safe? When did you last trust someone fully, without measuring their capacity to hurt you? When did you allow yourself to feel joy without bracing for it to end? That's what pain stole from you. And worse, you let it steal it. Now here's the moment most people run from. You don't get a do-over. You don't get someone else's permission. You don't get closure delivered to your lap. The responsibility is yours. Pain delivered the lesson. The rest is choice. You can continue walking around in your carefully constructed version of survival, or you can confront it. Look at the walls you've built. See the habits, the avoidance, the half-lived life. See how much of yourself you've silenced. And then, if you have the courage, you take it back. You accept that survival got you here. But surviving is not enough anymore. You have to reclaim who you were, or who you could have been, beyond the damage, beyond the scars, beyond the fear. Because this is the final truth that nobody teaches. Pain does not have the power to define you. Your response does. If you let it, It will continue shaping your life quietly. If you fight it, it will forge you, not into the person it wants you to be, but into the person you choose to become. And make no mistake, this is not easy. This is not painless. This will take confrontation with yourself, the parts you've hidden, ignored, or denied. This will hurt more than anything the original pain did, because the truth of your own avoidance is heavier than any wound inflicted by others. And the first step is brutally simple. Look at yourself. Stop pretending the compromises, the fears, the numbness, the half-life, the choices you made freely, because they weren't. They were survival instincts. Now you must decide. Do you keep surviving, or do you start living again? Pain is part of you. The scars are part of you. The memories are part of you. But they do not own you. Not unless you allow it. This is the reckoning. This is the cold mirror. And this is the moment most people run from. You can run too. Or you can face it. The old version of you. The wounded version. Taught you caution. The new version. The one that can step forward. Will teach you choice. Choice, not fear. Presence, not avoidance. Life, not survival. This is the moment. Look at yourself. Feel what you've avoided feeling. And for the first time, make the conscious decision. You will not let pain decide the rest of your life. Because the rest of your life is still yours. Look at yourself one last time. Really see it. All the fear you've carried, all the compromises you've made, all the pieces of yourself you gave away, quietly, because it was easier than facing the pain. The world isn't kind. It never was. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying, or has never lived. I've seen it all. I've watched men break under weight they thought they could bear. I've watched people survive tragedies and still wander hollow, carrying the ghosts of every what if. I've seen the truth. The world doesn't hand anyone relief. It doesn't reward endurance. It doesn't forgive mistakes. Pain doesn't end. It changes shape. It lurks in small moments. It whispers, you will not feel again. Not deeply, not fully. And most people, they believe it. They live their lives in quiet defeat, telling of themselves, I am cautious, I'm strong, I'm realistic. No, you are chained by fear, by the memory of every wound, by every time someone betrayed your trust, by every time life knocked you down and didn't help you up. And here is the last, coldest truth. You survive. Yes, but surviving is cheap. It's easy. It's hollow. What is hard, what is real, is choosing to live again. Choosing to let pain shape you into a warrior, not a shadow. Choosing to stop letting it dictate who you love, who you trust, how you hope, what you risk. Because if you don't, if you keep hiding behind survival, then all the strength you think you have, it belongs to the pain, not to you. So look in the mirror one final time. Ask yourself, am I still letting my scars run my life? Or do I reclaim my choices? Do I step forward into the life I was always meant to live? Even if it terrifies me, this is the choice. This is the reckoning. And remember this, pain will always exist. The world will always be cruel. People will always fail you. But you are allowed to be more than what it made of you. You are allowed to take back your life. You are allowed to feel fully. Even if it hurts, you are allowed to hope. You are allowed to trust. You are allowed to fight for yourself and not just survive. Because at the end of all the pain, all the loss, all the damage. There is only one thing that matters. You decide who you become. And if you do it right, if you face the truth of your scars and refuse to let them own you, then the man you see in the mirror will not just be a survivor. He will be someone unbroken, someone forged, someone awake. And that is the last lesson pain ever teaches.